You are not responsible for how people feel about you. You are only responsible for how you carry yourself in the face of their reaction. That single truth holds the key to unshakable peace. For years, you may have lived as if your worth depended on being liked, accepted, understood. You may have bent your truth, swallowed your voice, dimmed your light, all to avoid disapproval, rejection, or the quiet sting of being disliked. But here's what no one wants to admit. You cannot control how people feel. You never could, and the sooner you release that burden, the freer you become. Because their dislike, whether loud or silent, is not a verdict on your character. It's a reflection of their inner world, their fears, their insecurities, their unresolved pain. And when you stop taking it personally, you reclaim your power. You stop questioning yourself. You stop losing sleep over opinions that don't matter. You stop twisting to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Because here's the truth, being disliked doesn't mean you failed. It often means you've grown too real for someone's comfort. Your calm makes their anxiety unbearable. Your boundaries make their lack of self-respect obvious. Your independence makes their dependency feel wrong. And instead of facing their own truth, they project their discomfort onto you. Psychology calls this emotional projection and cognitive dissonance. When someone's reality conflicts with their beliefs, they don't change. They reject the source of the conflict. And if you're living with clarity, confidence, and peace, you become that source. That's not your fault. That's your strength. And strength threatens those still trapped in fear. The moment you stop seeking approval, you break the invisible chains of emotional manipulation. You escape the need to be seen, validated, or understood by everyone. And that freedom? That's what some people can't tolerate. They don't hate you. They fear what you represent. They fear a version of themselves they've buried. The one who could be free, who could set boundaries, who could walk away without looking back. But instead of rising, they pull you down. Not with loud attacks, but with coldness, silence, subtle judgment. They test your resolve. They question your choices. They imply you've changed for the worse. But you haven't changed for the worse. You've changed for you. And that's the deepest form of courage. Most people spend their lives trying to be liked. They perform. They pretend. They abandon their truth, all to avoid the discomfort of disapproval. But discomfort is not danger. Disapproval is not failure. And being disliked by someone who can't grow with you is not a loss. It's a release. It's the universe filtering out those who no longer belong in your world. And every time you honor that filter, you grow stronger. You protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. Every breath you waste on resentment, every thought you give to their opinion, is energy stolen from your future. But when you reclaim it, when you redirect it into your purpose, your peace, your growth, you begin to build a life that no whisper, no cold shoulder, no silent judgment can destroy. A life not of approval, but of alignment. Not of performance, but of presence. And from that presence, you radiate a strength no anger could ever create. People feel it. They sense your stability. They're drawn to your calm, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you've become someone who can't be shaken. That's not arrogance. That's mastery. And mastery comes not from never being disliked, but from no longer being ruled by it. You set boundaries without rage. You speak your truth without needing agreement. You walk away without resentment. That's power. Quiet, steady, unavoidable. And the more you practice it, the more your nervous system recalibrates. Your body learns, I am safe. I don't need to fight for my worth. I don't need to prove anything. I am enough. Over time, the sting of dislike fades. Not because you've hardened your heart, but because you've healed your wounds. Because you've filled your own cup so completely that no one can take from it. You no longer need to defend because there's nothing left to defend. You are whole. You are full. You are free. And that freedom isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It simply radiates, a quiet strength that no insult can break. That's who you are becoming. Not someone who's liked by everyone, but someone who's at peace with being misunderstood. Someone who knows their value doesn't rise or fall with someone's mood. Someone who walks forward, calm, clear, and completely unbothered. And from that place, you build a life that no opinion can destroy. That life is already yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to fit in. You are here to stand out, quietly, calmly, without apology. And that simple truth is the very reason some people secretly dislike you. Not because you're arrogant, not because you're trying to be better than anyone, but because your presence disrupts the illusion that everyone else is living. You don't panic when excluded. You don't chase approval. You don't perform for attention. You simply exist in your truth, with a stillness that unnerves those who are always searching, always striving, always reacting. That stillness is not emptiness. It's fullness. It's the quiet confidence of someone who has filled their own cup so completely that no opinion can create a void, and that kind of inner wholeness threatens people who still depend on external validation. They don't hate you for being strong. They fear you because your strength exposes their fragility. Your peace makes their chaos obvious. Your boundaries make their lack of self-respect unbearable. And instead of growing, they pull away. They whisper. They judge. They create distance. But this isn't about you. It's about their fear of becoming who they're meant to be. Because deep down, they know they could choose peace too. They could set boundaries. They could stop seeking. But that would require change. And change is painful. So they stay small. And they resent those who don't. That's human nature. And the stronger you become, the more you'll feel it. But you don't have to carry their discomfort. You don't have to shrink to make them comfortable. You don't have to silence your truth to keep the peace. Real peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of self-trust. It's knowing, deep in your bones, that your worth isn't up for debate, that your path doesn't need approval, that your life belongs to you, not to their expectations, their opinions, their need for control. Most people live in fear of being disliked. They twist themselves, abandon their values, betray their instincts, all to avoid rejection. But rejection is not always a flaw. Sometimes it's a filter. A silent message from the universe saying, "This person cannot grow with you. This relationship no longer serves your evolution." And when you learn to trust that filter, you stop begging for inclusion. You stop questioning your worth. You stop giving energy to those who refuse to see you. Instead, you protect your presence like it's sacred. Because it is. Every moment you spend trying to explain yourself to someone who doesn't want to understand is a moment stolen from your growth. Every breath you give to resentment is energy lost from your future. But when you reclaim that energy, when you redirect it into clarity, focus, and purpose, you begin to build a life that no cold shoulder, no silent treatment, no hidden judgment can destroy. A life not of approval, but of alignment, not of performance, but of truth. And from that truth, you radiate a power no anger could ever create. People feel it. They sense your stability. They're drawn to your calm, not because you're loud, not because you're trying to impress, but because you become someone who can't be shaken. That's not manipulation. That's magnetism. And it comes not from effort, but from integrity. When your actions match your inner knowing, when your energy is clean and focused, you become a force that no chaos can break. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real, about honoring your emotions without being enslaved by them, about feeling the sting of dislike and choosing not to react. That's mastery, not suppression, not denial, but conscious choice. Every time you feel the pull to defend, to explain, to fight for your worth, and you choose stillness instead, you rewire your nervous system. You teach your body that peace is the default, that you don't need to win to feel valid, that you are enough, exactly as you are. And the more you do this, the more your life transforms. You stop wasting energy on noise. You stop giving mental space to people who don't matter. You stop replaying conversations that serve nothing but your own suffering. Instead, you return, again and again, to your center, to your breath, to your truth. And from that truth, you build a life that no insult, no betrayal, no injustice can destroy. That life is already yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be free. And freedom begins the moment you stop needing approval to feel whole. You are not required to earn someone's respect. You are born with it. And the moment you stop chasing it, you begin to live with true power. For years you may have believed that respect is something you achieve, through effort, through sacrifice, through proving your worth over and over again. You've stayed quiet when you should have spoken. You've tolerated disrespect to avoid conflict. You've bent yourself to fit into spaces where you were never meant to belong. All because you thought that if you just tried hard enough, they would finally see you, value you, respect you. But here's the truth that changes everything. Respect cannot be earned from those who refuse to give it. And if someone secretly dislikes you, their lack of respect says nothing about your value. and everything about their limitations. Because real respect doesn't come from performance, it comes from presence, from the quiet certainty of someone who knows their worth without needing to announce it. And that kind of presence threatens people who depend on control, on hierarchy, on feeling superior. Your calm unnerves them. Your silence confuses them. Your refusal to compete makes them question their own constant struggle. And instead of rising to meet you, they pull you down, not with loud attacks, but with subtle dismissals, cold tones, passive resistance. They withhold acknowledgement. They minimize your wins. They act as if your growth is irrelevant. But this isn't about you. It's about their fear of being equal, their fear of a world where worth isn't earned through dominance, but recognized through being. You don't need their respect to be valid. You don't need their approval to be whole. You don't need their recognition to keep moving forward, because your value was assigned the moment you existed. And no opinion, no silence, no cold shoulder can erase that. Most people spend their lives begging for respect through effort. They overwork, they overgive, they overexplain, all to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be treated fairly. But fairness is not guaranteed. Recognition is not promised. And the more you tie your peace to those things, the more unstable your foundation becomes. But when you stop needing their respect, something shifts. You stop reacting to disrespect. You stop chasing validation. You stop measuring your worth by how others treat you. And in that release, you gain something far greater: self-respect. That's the only respect that truly matters. The kind that doesn't waver when someone ignores you. The kind that doesn't collapse when someone speaks down to you. The kind that stands firm, even in silence. And from that self-respect, you set boundaries without apology. You walk away without guilt. You speak your truth without aggression. That's not pride. That's integrity. That's the quiet strength of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. Psychology confirms this. When a person's ego feels threatened by another's calm confidence, they don't respond with admiration. They respond with devaluation. It's a defense mechanism, a way to restore their sense of control. So they downplay your success. They question your motives. They imply you've changed for the worse. But you haven't changed for the worse. You've changed for you, and that's the deepest form of courage. You've stopped outsourcing your worth. You've stopped letting their mood dictate your state. You've stopped giving power to people who refuse to grow. And that independence, that's what they can't tolerate. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your freedom highlights their captivity. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to make them see. You simply keep walking. You keep growing. You keep becoming. And as you do, their influence fades. Not because you attack them, but because you outgrew them. That's how real power works. It doesn't shout. It doesn't force. It simply rises. And when you rise with peace, with clarity, with unshakable self-trust, you become immune to their games. You stop carrying their opinions like stones in your chest. You stop replaying their words in your mind. You stop wondering what you did wrong. Because nothing is wrong. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not unlovable. You are simply too real for their illusion. And that's not a flaw. It's a signal, a sign that you're on the right path. So let them dislike you. Let them withhold respect. Let them act as if you don't matter. You keep going. You keep breathing. You keep honoring your truth. Because your life was never meant to fit into their small world. It was meant to expand beyond it. And in that expansion, you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on fairness, kindness, or justice. The kind that stands firm in the middle of chaos and says, I am still whole. That peace is yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to be understood by everyone. That truth may feel lonely at first, but it is also your liberation. For years, you may have carried the weight of being misunderstood, twisting your words, softening your truth, holding back your light, all in the desperate hope that someone would finally get you, that they would see your intentions, honor your efforts, recognize your pain. But here's what no one tells you. Not everyone is capable of seeing you, not because you're unclear, not because you haven't tried hard enough, but because their vision is clouded by their own fears, their own limitations, their own unresolved wounds. And no matter how perfectly you explain yourself, how gently you speak, how much you sacrifice, they will never see you clearly, not until they heal. And that is not your responsibility. You are not here to fix their blindness. You are here to keep walking in your truth, whether they see it or not. Because the moment you stop needing to be understood, you step into a new level of power. a power that doesn't depend on agreement, a power that doesn't crumble when someone misjudges you, a power that remains unshaken even in silence, even in rejection, even in cold indifference. Most people spend their lives chasing understanding like it's oxygen. They over-explain, they defend, they replay conversations in their minds, searching for the perfect words that will finally make someone see. But understanding cannot be forced. It cannot be earned. It either happens or it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you don't have to stay trapped in the pain of being unseen. You can simply release the need for it. Not with bitterness, not with anger, but with quiet clarity. You say to yourself, I do not need their recognition to be real. I do not need their agreement to be true. I am here. I am living. I am becoming. And that is enough. This isn't about giving up on connection. It's about choosing it wisely. It's about directing your energy toward those who are open, who are growing, who are capable of seeing you, not those who benefit from your silence, your confusion, your self-doubt. Because some people don't want to understand you. They don't want to see your truth. Why? Because if they did, they'd have to face their own. Your clarity would expose their denial. Your peace would highlight their chaos. Your growth would make their stagnation unbearable. So instead of rising, they reject. They misinterpret your kindness as weakness. They frame your boundaries as coldness. They paint your silence as arrogance. But none of that is about you. It's about their fear, their insecurity, their refusal to change. And you don't have to carry that. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to stay in a space where you're constantly explaining yourself. You can walk away, not in defeat, in power. Because real strength isn't in making others see you. It's in continuing to be yourself, even when they don't. Psychology confirms this. The human mind resists cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding two conflicting beliefs. When your life contradicts someone's belief about what's possible, about who they are, about how the world works, they don't change their belief. They change their view of you. They downplay your success. They question your motives. They imply there's something wrong with your peace, but there's nothing wrong with you. There's only something wrong with their readiness. And that's not your burden to fix. You are not responsible for their evolution. You are responsible for yours. And your evolution requires space. Space to grow, space to heal, space to become who you are meant to be, without apology, without explanation, without permission. So you stop begging for understanding. You stop twisting yourself to fit into narrow minds. You stop giving your energy to people who refuse to see you. Instead, you protect your presence like it's sacred, because it is. Every breath you waste on being misunderstood is a breath stolen from your future. Every thought you give to their ignorance is a thought stolen from your purpose. But when you reclaim that energy, when you redirect it into your breath, your focus, your next step forward, you begin to build a life that no misjudgment, no cold shoulder, no hidden resentment can destroy. A life not of approval, but of alignment. Not of performance, but of truth. And from that truth, you radiate a strength no anger could ever create. People feel it. They sense your stability. They're drawn to your calm. Not because you're loud, not because you're trying to impress, but because you've become someone who can't be shaken. That's not arrogance. That's mastery. And mastery comes not from being liked, but from being unbothered. So let them misunderstand you. Let them misrepresent you. Let them whisper, judge, distance themselves. You keep walking. You keep breathing. You keep becoming. Because your light was never meant to fit into their small world. It was meant to shine beyond it. And in that shining, you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on being seen, the kind that exists, deep, quiet, and unshakable, whether anyone understands you or not. You are not here to compete. That single realization sets you free. For years you may have believed that life is a race, that to be valuable you must outperform, outshine, outlast, that your worth is measured by comparison, by who earns more, who speaks louder, who gains more attention, who gets praised first. But here's the truth that changes everything. You were never meant to compete. Not with others, not with yourself, not with time. You are meant to evolve, to grow, to become the fullest version of who you are, without looking left or right to see who's ahead or behind. And when you stop competing, something powerful happens. You stop feeling threatened, you stop envying, you stop measuring your progress by someone else's path. Because their journey is not yours. Their success does not diminish yours. Their recognition does not define your worth. And when you live from that truth, you become immune to jealousy, to resentment, to the quiet sting of being overlooked, because you're no longer chasing what they have. You're building what only you can create. Most people live in constant comparison. They check social media and feel less. They hear of someone's promotion and feel stuck. They see a friend's relationship and feel lonely. But that pain isn't about what they lack. It's about forgetting who they are. It's about outsourcing their sense of progress to external markers. And when you stop doing that, when you stop measuring your value by how far someone else has gone, you reclaim your power. You begin to see competition for what it really is, a distraction, a trap designed to keep you anxious, striving, and disconnected from your own rhythm. Because real growth doesn't happen in comparison. It happens in stillness, in presence, in the quiet daily choices to show up, to heal, to create, to become. And no applause is needed, no recognition required, no race to win, just movement, forward, aligned, true. This is why some people secretly dislike you, not because you're better, but because you're not playing. You don't react when they try to provoke rivalry. You don't boast about your wins. You don't panic when they succeed. You simply keep walking your path with calm, focused energy, and that unnerves them, because your peace exposes their struggle. Your lack of jealousy highlights their insecurity. Your quiet confidence makes their constant striving look desperate. They don't hate you. They fear what your stillness represents. A world where worth isn't earned through dominance, but recognized through being. A world where peace is possible, where enough is enough, and they're not ready for that world. So instead of changing, they resent, they whisper, they pull away. They act as if your lack of competition is arrogance, but it's not, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that life isn't a battlefield, it's a journey, and you are not here to defeat others, you are here to fulfill yourself. Psychology confirms this. When someone feels insecure, they seek superiority to feel safe. They need to believe they're better, faster, smarter. But when they encounter someone who doesn't play that game, who doesn't react, doesn't compare, doesn't need to win, they feel disarmed. Their ego has no foothold. Their insecurity has no target. And so they reject what they cannot control. But you don't have to carry that rejection. You don't have to prove you're not arrogant. You don't have to explain your peace. You simply keep moving, calm, clear, and completely unbothered. Because your value isn't tied to rankings. It's tied to truth, to purpose, to the daily choice to live in alignment. And that choice is yours alone. No one can take it from you. No opinion can diminish it. No success story can make it less real. You are not behind. You are not falling short. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. Growing at your own pace, healing in your own time, becoming in your own way. And that is not failure. That is freedom. Most people spend their lives running a race they never chose. They burn out, they numb out, they lose themselves. But you're learning to walk, to breathe, to trust, to create a life that doesn't depend on winning. A life where peace is the goal, not praise, where presence is the prize, not promotion. And from that place, you radiate a strength no competition could ever create. People feel it. They sense your stability. They're drawn to your calm. Not because you're loud, not because you're trying to win, but because you've become someone who can't be shaken. That's not indifference, that's mastery. And mastery comes not from being the best, but from being the most real. So let them compete, let them chase, let them measure and compare and strive. You keep walking, you keep breathing, you keep becoming. Because your path was never meant to be like theirs. It was meant to be like you, quiet, deep, and unshakably true. And in that truth, you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on winning, but on being. That peace is yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to be needed. That truth may feel unsettling at first, but it is the doorway to true freedom. For years you may have tied your worth to being necessary, to being the one who fixes, who listens, who holds everything together. You stayed in relationships, long after they stopped serving you. You said yes when you meant no. You gave your energy freely, hoping that if you were useful enough, present enough, selfless enough, they would never leave. But here's the quiet pain no one speaks of. Being needed is not the same as being loved. And being needed by the wrong people often means you're being used, taken for granted, held in place not for who you are but for what you provide. And when you finally stop, when you set a boundary, when you prioritize yourself, when you choose peace over obligation, some people pull away. They grow cold, they withdraw, they act as if you've failed them, but you haven't failed, you've awakened, and that awakening is what they can't tolerate. Because your independence exposes their dependency, your self-care highlights their emotional hunger, your refusal to be drained makes their taking feel wrong. So they don't praise you, they punish you. Not with loud attacks, but with silence, guilt, passive resentment. They make you feel selfish for protecting your peace. But you're not selfish. You're sane. You're finally honoring the truth. You were never meant to be anyone's emotional crutch. You were meant to stand on your own 2 feet, not carry the weight of those who refuse to walk. Most people spend their lives seeking importance through necessity. They believe that if someone can't live without them, they matter. But that kind of importance is fragile. It's built on imbalance, on need, not love, on fear, not freedom. And when the person you've been holding suddenly realizes they can stand on their own, they don't thank you. They leave, and you're left wondering what went wrong. But nothing went wrong. You simply outgrew the role they needed you to play, and that's not a loss. It's a release, because real connection doesn't require sacrifice. Real love doesn't demand depletion. Real respect doesn't depend on your availability. When someone truly values you, they don't panic when you set a boundary. They don't punish you for saying no. They don't make you feel guilty for prioritizing your well-being. They celebrate your strength. They honor your limits. They stay, not because they need you, but because they choose you. And that's the only kind of connection worth having. But until you stop seeking importance through need, you'll keep attracting people who want to take, not give, who want to control, not support, who want to keep you small, not see you rise. Because your growth threatens their comfort. Your self-sufficiency disrupts their dependency. And instead of growing with you, they resent you. They whisper. They distance themselves. They imply you've changed for the worse. But you haven't changed for the worse. You've changed for you. And that's the deepest act of courage. You've stopped defining your worth by how much you give. You've stopped measuring your value by how indispensable you are. You've stopped believing that love means suffering in silence. And from that shift you gain something rare, emotional freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on being wanted, the kind that exists even in solitude, the kind that says, I am enough, with or without you. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the understanding that your peace is yours to protect, that your energy is yours to direct, that your life belongs to you, not to someone else's emotional survival. And when you live from that truth, you attract people who don't need you, but want you, who don't depend on you, but stand beside you. That's real partnership, real friendship, real love, and it can only grow in the soil of self-respect. Most people never reach this level of freedom. They spend their lives being needed, burned out, unfulfilled, because they're afraid of being alone. But aloneness is not emptiness. It's fullness. It's the space where you reconnect with yourself, where you hear your truth, where you remember who you are when no one is watching. And when you're at peace with being alone, you no longer fear abandonment. You no longer beg for inclusion. You no longer twist yourself to be necessary. You simply exist, whole, complete, and free. So let them dislike you. Let them say you've changed. Let them pull away because you're no longer available for emotional labor. You keep walking. You keep breathing. You keep choosing yourself. Because your life was never meant to be a service to others. It was meant to be a journey back to you. And in that journey, you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on being needed, the kind that stands firm, quiet, and unshakable, whether anyone depends on you or not. That peace is yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to return to what no longer serves you. That truth may feel like a door closing, but it is actually a path opening. For years you may have believed that loyalty means staying, even when the air is heavy, even when the silence is loud, even when your spirit quietly whispers that something is wrong. You've gone back to relationships that hurt you. You've reopened doors you knew should stay closed. You've given second, third, 10th chances, not because the person changed, but because you couldn't bear the pain of walking away. But here's the quiet courage no one talks about. The strongest thing you can do is not forgive. It's to forgive, and then choose not to return. Because forgiveness is not a bridge back to toxicity. It's a release from bitterness. It's the act of saying, I no longer carry your weight. But carrying your weight is not the same as letting you back in. And that distinction, when truly lived, is what some people can't accept. Because when you forgive but don't return, you break the cycle. You refuse to be pulled back into old patterns. You protect your peace with action, not just words. And that strength, that clarity, that's what makes some people secretly dislike you. Not because you've harmed them, but because your boundaries make their manipulation useless. Your peace makes their chaos unbearable. Your refusal to come back makes their control irrelevant. So they don't praise you, they punish you, they whisper, they judge. They say you've become cold, unforgiving, distant. But you're not cold. You're clear, you're not unforgiving. You've already forgiven. You just won't repeat the pain. And that's not cruelty, that's wisdom, that's self-respect. Most people confuse forgiveness with reconciliation. They believe that if you've forgiven someone, you owe them another chance. But that belief is a trap. It keeps you trapped in cycles of hurt. It makes you responsible for their growth. It demands that you reopen wounds just to prove you've healed. But healing doesn't mean returning. It means recognizing what damaged you and choosing not to walk back into it. And when you do that, when you say no without guilt, when you walk away without looking back, you send a powerful message. I value my peace more than your presence. That message terrifies people who depend on access to your energy, who rely on your kindness to cover their flaws, who need your return to feel forgiven, even when they haven't changed. But you're not here to validate their comfort. You're here to honor your truth, and your truth is this. Some doors are closed not out of anger, but out of love. For yourself, and from that love you set boundaries that don't waver. You speak truths that don't apologize. You walk paths that don't backtrack. That's not pride. That's integrity, and integrity is the quiet strength of someone who knows their worth isn't tied to availability. You don't need to prove you've moved on. You don't need to explain why you won't return. You don't need to justify protecting your peace. Because your life is not a negotiation. It's a declaration, a daily choice to live in alignment, not obligation. Psychology confirms this. People resist change in others, especially when it removes their access to comfort, control, or emotional supply. When you heal and refuse to return, you disrupt their narrative. You show them that their behavior has consequences, and instead of growing, they resent. They don't celebrate your strength. They attack it, subtly, silently, indirectly. But you don't have to carry their discomfort. You don't have to defend your distance. You don't have to reopen wounds just to prove you're not bitter. You've already released the bitterness. Now you're living the freedom. And that freedom is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It simply radiates. A quiet strength that no guilt trip, no silent treatment, no passive aggression can break. You are not here to repeat the past. You are here to build the future. And the future doesn't include people who refuse to grow, who expect endless second chances without change, who want your forgiveness but not your boundaries. You attract those who respect your no, who honor your peace, who stay because they've earned it, not because they've demanded it. Most people never reach this level of clarity. They spend their lives returning to what hurt them, believing that loyalty means suffering. But real loyalty is not to people who harm you. It's to yourself, to your growth, to your peace. And when you live from that loyalty, you stop begging for inclusion. You stop questioning your worth. You stop giving energy to those who refuse to see you. Instead, you invest in what matters. Your breath, your purpose, your next step forward. That's where real power lives, not in returning, not in repeating, but in rising, again and again, without looking back. So let them dislike you. Let them say you've changed. Let them whisper that you're too hard, too distant, too free. You keep walking, you keep breathing, you keep choosing yourself. Because your life was never meant to be a loop. It was meant to be a journey forward. And in that journey, you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on returning. The kind that stands firm, quiet, and unshakable. Whether anyone follows you or not, that peace is yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to fear being alone. That truth may feel radical, but it is your liberation. For years, you may have believed that solitude is failure, that being single means you're unwanted, that quiet evenings with yourself mean you've been rejected, that if no one is beside you, you must be broken. But here's the deep unspoken truth. Being alone is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the sacred space where you finally hear your own voice, where you stop performing, where you stop seeking, where you stop begging for inclusion. And in that stillness, you discover something most never do: yourself. Not the version shaped by others' opinions, not the mask worn to fit in, not the persona crafted for approval, but the real you. The one who exists beneath the noise. The one who is always there waiting. And when you finally meet that self, truly meet them, you realize you were never alone. You were simply unmet. And now, you are meeting yourself with compassion, with curiosity, with courage. That meeting changes everything. Because once you learn to enjoy your own company, once you learn to trust your own presence, you stop depending on others to feel whole. You stop clinging to relationships that drain you. You stop tolerating disrespect just to avoid being alone. You stop twisting yourself to be needed. Because you've discovered the most powerful truth: you are enough. Not when you're in a relationship, not when you're praised, not when you're seen, but now, always, unconditionally. And that knowing, that deep, quiet certainty, is what some people secretly dislike. Not because you're arrogant, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your peace with solitude makes their dependence look like fear. Your comfort in silence makes their need for noise look like avoidance. Your self-sufficiency makes their constant search for validation look like weakness. And instead of growing, they resent. They don't celebrate your independence. They fear it. They act as if your solitude is a rejection of them. But it's not. It's a reclamation of you. And that reclamation is not a threat. It's a revolution. Most people live in terror of being alone. They rush into relationships to avoid silence. They stay in toxic connections to escape solitude. They fill their lives with noise, with people, with distractions, anything to avoid the one conversation they've never had, the one with themselves. But that avoidance comes at a cost. It steals their authenticity. It buries their truth. It keeps them trapped in cycles of need, of drama, of emotional hunger. And when they see someone who doesn't need them, who is truly at peace with being alone, they don't feel inspired. They feel exposed. Because your stillness reveals their chaos. Your independence highlights their fear. Your self-love makes their self-doubt unbearable. So they pull away. They judge. They whisper. They imply you're lonely, broken, cold. But you're not lonely. You're free. You're not broken. You're whole. You're not cold. You're clear. And that clarity is not something to fear. It's something to honor. Psychology confirms this. People fear autonomy in others because it challenges their belief that love requires dependency. When you thrive in solitude, you prove that connection is not about survival, but choice. And that truth threatens those who believe love means never being apart, never being quiet, never being without. But real love doesn't fear solitude. It respects it. It understands that two whole people don't cling. They choose. And when you become whole, you stop needing to prove you're not alone. You stop chasing relationships to validate your worth. You stop fearing silence. You embrace it. Because in silence you grow. In solitude you heal. In stillness you become. And from that becoming you attract people who don't need you, but want you. Who don't depend on you, but stand beside you. That's real connection. Not born from lack, but from fullness. Most people never reach this level of freedom. They spend their lives running from themselves, mistaking loneliness for emptiness, not realizing that the only way out is through the quiet, through the stillness, through the courage to sit with yourself and say, I am here, I am enough, I am home. And when you live from that truth, you stop begging for company. You stop fearing exclusion. You stop measuring your worth by who's beside you. You simply exist, calm, clear, and completely unbothered. So let them dislike you. Let them say you're too independent. Let them whisper that you're hard to love. You keep walking, you keep breathing, you keep choosing yourself. Because your life was never meant to be filled by others. It was meant to be filled by you. And in that filling, you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on company, the kind that stands firm, quiet, and unshakable, whether anyone is with you or not. That peace is yours. You only need to claim it, one breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to carry the weight of someone else's inability to grow. That truth may feel heavy to accept, but it is the key to your freedom. For years, you may have believed that if you loved someone enough, stayed long enough, sacrificed enough, they would eventually change, that your patience would be rewarded, that your loyalty would inspire transformation. But here's the quiet heartbreak no one prepares you for. People don't change because you suffer for them. They change when they're ready, and often, they never are. And when you finally stop waiting, when you stop giving your energy to those who refuse to evolve, some people will turn against you. They'll say you've become cold, distant, unforgiving. But you're not any of those things. You're just no longer willing to drown so someone else can stay afloat. And that refusal, your quiet decision to protect your peace, is what makes them dislike you. Not because you've harmed them, not because you've abandoned them, but because your clarity exposes their stagnation. Your growth highlights their refusal to move. Your peace makes their excuses unbearable. So instead of changing, they resent. They don't celebrate your strength. They punish it, quietly, subtly, with coldness, silence, judgment. But this isn't about hate. It's about fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of facing the truth that change is possible, and they've chosen not to take it. And you're not here to fix that. You're here to live, to grow, to become. And that means recognizing that not everyone is meant to stay. Some people are only in your life to show you what you no longer need. And when you finally see that, you stop begging for loyalty from those who can't give it. You stop twisting yourself to fit into relationships that drain you. You stop giving your energy to people who refuse to heal. Because real connection isn't built on sacrifice. It's built on mutual growth, on shared evolution, on both people choosing, every day, to become better. And when one person stops moving, the relationship stops living. It becomes a ghost of what it once was. And you don't have to stay to honor the memory. You can walk away with gratitude, with peace, with no bitterness, and still love what was, without returning to what no longer is. Most people spend their lives trapped in emotional inertia. They stay in dead relationships. They tolerate disrespect. They give endlessly to people who never grow, because they believe that leaving means they've failed. But staying when growth has stopped isn't loyalty. It's self-betrayal. It's choosing the illusion of connection over the reality of peace. And the cost, your energy, your joy, your time. Years lost to people who never intended to meet you halfway. But you're different now. You're learning to see the truth. You cannot awaken someone who insists on sleeping. You cannot carry someone who refuses to walk. And you don't have to. Your job is not to fix, to save, to wait. Your job is to honor your own path, to protect your presence, to keep moving forward, even if you walk alone. Psychology confirms this. Human beings resist change, especially when it requires discomfort. And when someone around them begins to grow, it creates cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of seeing what's possible while refusing to act. So instead of rising, they pull the growing person down. They criticize, they withdraw, they imply you've changed for the worse. But you haven't changed for the worse. You've changed for you. And that's the deepest form of courage. You've stopped measuring your worth by how many people stay. You've stopped believing that love means suffering in silence. You've stopped giving your energy to those who refuse to grow. And from that shift, you gain something rare, emotional freedom. The kind that doesn't depend on someone else's evolution. The kind that exists even in solitude. The kind that says, I am moving forward, with or without you. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the understanding that your peace is yours to protect, that your energy is yours to direct, that your life belongs to you, not to someone else's emotional inertia. And when you live from that truth, you attract people who are growing, who are healing, who are becoming, not those who depend on your silence to stay stuck. Most people never reach this level of freedom. They spend their lives waiting for change that never comes. They hold on to ghosts. They give their best years to people who never intended to meet them in the present. But you're ready to stop waiting. You're ready to stop carrying the weight of someone else's refusal to grow. You're ready to walk forward, calm, clear, and completely unbothered. So let them dislike you. Let them say you've changed. Let them whisper that you're too strong, too distant, too free. You keep walking. You keep breathing. You keep choosing yourself. Because your life was never meant to be a waiting room. It was meant to be a journey. And in that journey, you find the only peace worth having. The kind that doesn't depend on someone else's growth. The kind that stands firm, quiet, and unshakable. Whether anyone walks beside you or not, that peace is yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. You are not here to prove anything to anyone. That single truth, when truly lived, sets you free in ways nothing else can. For years you may have carried the weight of expectation. yours and theirs, believing that your worth had to be earned, demonstrated, validated. You've overachieved to be seen. You've stayed silent to be accepted. You've pushed through pain to prove you're strong. But here's the quiet revelation that changes everything. You don't need to prove your strength, your value, your intelligence, or your love. You already are all of those things. Not because someone said so, not because you've achieved enough, but because you exist, and existence is enough. The moment you stop needing to prove yourself, you step out of the invisible arena where everyone is fighting for recognition. You walk away from the endless performance. You stop measuring your worth by applause, by likes, by who notices you first. And in that release, you find something most never experience. Peace. Not the kind that comes after winning, but the kind that was there all along, beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the fear of not being enough. That peace is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It simply is. And it grows stronger every time you choose not to react, not to explain, not to defend. Because real strength doesn't shout. It stands, quietly, firmly, without needing to be seen. And that's what makes some people secretly dislike you, not because you're arrogant, but because your quiet confidence disrupts their need for drama. Your lack of competition makes their struggle look unnecessary. Your refusal to prove yourself makes their constant performance look desperate. So they don't celebrate you. They distance themselves. They whisper. They imply you've become cold, detached, unapproachable. But you're not cold. You're clear. You're not detached. You're free. And freedom is threatening to those still trapped in the need to be seen. Most people spend their lives performing. They overwork. They overshare. They chase titles, followers, praise, all to feel valid. But validation is a trap. It's temporary. It fades. And the more you chase it, the emptier you become. Because no amount of external proof can fill the internal void created by self-doubt. But when you stop seeking proof, when you stop needing to show people who you are, you begin to live who you are. You speak less. You act more. You move through life with a quiet dignity that no opinion can break. And from that dignity, you set boundaries without apology. You walk away without explanation. You protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Every breath you waste on proving yourself is a breath stolen from your future. Every thought you give to being seen is a thought stolen from your growth. But when you reclaim that energy, when you redirect it into presence, purpose, and peace, you begin to build a life that no judgment, no silence, no cold shoulder can destroy. A life not of performance, but of truth, not of approval, but of alignment. And from that alignment, you radiate a strength no anger could ever create. People feel it, they sense your stability. They're drawn to your calm, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you've become someone who can't be shaken. That's not arrogance. That's mastery. And mastery comes not from proving you're strong, but from knowing it so deeply that you no longer need to show it. Psychology confirms this. When a person's ego feels threatened by quiet confidence, they don't respond with admiration. They respond with dismissal. They downplay your success. They question your motives. They imply you've changed for the worse. But you haven't changed for the worse. You've changed for you. And that's the deepest form of courage. You've stopped outsourcing your worth. You've stopped letting their mood dictate your state. You've stopped giving power to people who refuse to grow. And that independence, that's what they can't tolerate. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because your freedom highlights their captivity. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to make them see. You simply keep walking. You keep growing. You keep becoming. And as you do, their influence fades, not because you attacked them, but because you outgrew them. That's how real power works. It doesn't shout, it doesn't force, it simply rises. And when you rise with peace, with clarity, with unshakable self-trust, you become immune to their games. You stop carrying their opinions like stones in your chest. You stop replaying their words in your mind. You stop wondering what you did wrong. Because nothing is wrong. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not unlovable. You are simply too real for their illusion. And that's not a flaw. It's a signal, a sign that you're on the right path. So let them dislike you. Let them say you've changed. Let them act as if you don't matter. You keep going. You keep breathing. You keep honoring your truth. Because your life was never meant to fit into their small world. It was meant to expand beyond it. And in that expansion you find the only peace worth having, the kind that doesn't depend on being seen, the kind that stands firm in the middle of chaos and says, I am still whole. That peace is yours. You only need to claim it. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time.